Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So I am once again a little bit late in filming this video, but I am going to blame it on the weather. This is the first day in a week where I feel like I can kind of film without completely melting, but also I already feel warm and I have the window open, and yeah, if you can hear any background noise then that's why. But this is the only way I can film this video. Also, I'm going out in an hour because I'm meeting my nan for lunch, so if this video seems a little bit chaotic, it's because I am rushing a little bit, but also I do really want to talk about these books. I read some great books in August. I also read 14 books in August, and I don't know how that happened. Possibly because I was taking part in the Magical Readathon. So I was reading to complete prompts, and then I finished all of my prompts by halfway through the month. So for the second half of the month, I was basically mood reading. But yeah, I am going to start by going through my ratings for each book, and then I'll pick out a few to talk through in a little more detail. So I think by the time this wrap up goes live, my reading vlog for the Broken Earth series by N.K. Jemison should also be live. I think that will be the last video that went live before this one, but I did read the 5th season and the Obelisk Gate in August, and then I finished the Stone Sky at the start of September, so I have now completed this series and I loved this series. I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't seen that vlog yet, but I gave the 5th season 5 stars, one of my favourite books of the year, and then I gave the Obelisk Gate and the Stone Sky 4.5 stars. I didn't enjoy them quite as much as the 5th season, but I loved this series. It's set in this world, well, on this planet that's very unstable, so there are frequent earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, and we are following characters trying to survive during this apocalypse. It is a series that I would recommend more for the themes and for the magic system rather than for the plot. However, I am so happy that I liked this series because it had been on my radar for a while, and I'm glad I read them all quite close together because I think I would have been even more confused if I'd left it too long in between books. I also made progress with the Rainwild Chronicles in August, so at the very end of August I finished City of Dragons by Robin Hobb. This is very short for a Robin Hobb book, and I gave this 3 stars, I think, not because I didn't enjoy the content, but because this book felt a little bit pointless. I mean, there was a point to it because characters were being manoeuvred to where they need to be, I'm assuming, for the next book, but this was a filler book. That's what I'm starting to find with this series now, is that you can tell that there were publishing issues when it came out because there wasn't a solid plot to this book. Like, as an individual book, it didn't make sense. I am planning to pick up the 4th book in September and then move on to the Fitz and the Fool series before the end of the year, which is really scary because I've been reading The Realm of the Outlings since 2021 and I might actually finish it this year. I also picked up Friends, Lovers and the Big Terrible Thing by Matthew Perry, which is a memoir about Matthew Perry's life, but it's more about his struggle with addiction, and it was a lot heavier than I was expecting, but I really enjoyed the audiobook narration, and yeah, I didn't give this a rating because I don't rate non-fiction, but I'm glad that I read it. I also read quite a few thrillers in August, so I'm going to run through them in a list quite quickly, but In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware, I gave 3 stars, maybe closer to a 3.5. Things We Do in the Dark by Jennifer Hillier, I also gave around a 3.5 stars. The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson, I gave 4 stars, but again, it was closer to a 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it considering I went into it without any real expectations because it's a slightly older thriller now. I think it came out in 2015, but yeah, I enjoyed that one a lot more than I was expecting. Do No Harm by Jack Jordan, I'm actually still reading because I started listening to the audiobook through Scribd, and then Scribd blocked me from listening to it, and I'd listened to like the first 20%, so I've picked it back up in September. I've got around 45 minutes left of the audiobook, and I think this is going to be like a 2 stars, maybe a 3 stars. I do like the audiobook narration, but the actual story has gone in a direction that I'm not really enjoying. The Good Samaritan by John Mars, I gave a 3 stars, and then The Lying Game by Ruth Ware, I gave like a 2 stars. Unfortunately, that was my least favourite Ruth Ware book that I've read. However, I have now read all of her backlist, so my plan eventually is to film a video where I rank and review all of her books, and that one is going to be at the bottom, unfortunately. Some other books that I read in August were Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood, which I gave 5 stars. Another favourite book that I read in August was Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang, which again I gave 5 stars. I will talk about this in more detail because I have many thoughts and I need more people to read this one. Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings, I gave 2 stars, unfortunately. Then Godmersham Park by Gill Hornby, I gave 4 stars. And then I think those are all of the books that I read in August. I feel like I've rambled quite a bit in this first section when it was meant to be quickfire ratings, but let's get on to talk about some of these books in more detail. So the first book that I want to talk about is Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang, which I'm gonna have to be careful to hold it like this because this is a very shiny hardback. This is an incredible standalone dark academia fantasy that is set in a city called Tehran, which is mostly powered by magic, so it's a kind of industrial utopia. It's actually a really cool setting, and my favourite thing about this book was the magic system. It's kind of like programming. I don't want to spoil anything, but essentially these mages who use magic, they program, like type out a magical spell on a keyboard and then execute it. I've not done a very good job of explaining that, but the magic system in this is really intriguing, and we are following a main character called Siona, I think is her name, and she has this ambition of becoming the first female member of the High Magistracy. It's a very sexist and misogynistic society, so she faces a lot of hardship on her way to achieving this dream, but she's very driven. She ends up working with this guy called Thomil, who is a Quen. So the Quen is basically the area outside of the city, and the Quen people who live within Tehran are not treated very well. Siona starts off as a very unlikable character. However, I really appreciated her character growth throughout this book, and I thought this was really well paced for a standalone, or I should say this is the type of pacing that I want when I'm reading a standalone fantasy. Really loved the world building in this, and I think if you liked Babel by R.F. Kuang, or even if you liked the idea of Babel but didn't like the execution, then I would recommend picking this up because this was an easy 5 stars. It's very different to The Sword of Kaigan by M.L. Wang, which I read earlier this year, but I enjoyed them both, and M.L. Wang is fast becoming a favourite author for me. Another of my favourite books this month was Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. So this is the 3rd novel that I've read by Ali Hazelwood. I have also read one of her novellas, but this is my favourite thing that I've read by her. I was not expecting to love this book as much as I did because I I didn't like Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood, but this really worked for me, and I'm glad that I did give it a second chance after not enjoying Love on the Brain. So this follows our main character Elsie, who is an adjunct professor, and this doesn't pay very well, so to supplement her income, Elsie also has a side gig as a fake girlfriend. So she is hired by guys who are looking for someone to pretend to be their girlfriend for family events and things like that. The drama really starts when Elsie applies for her dream job and finds out that one of the guys who's interviewing her is the brother of her favourite client. So this guy, Jack, is really confused, and initially he is not happy because he thinks that Elsie has been lying to his brother, but Elsie can't tell Jack what's actually going on because she doesn't want to break the confidence of her client. So it's a messy situation at the start, but I thought that the chemistry between the two main characters was done so well. Elsie is diabetic, which is why she's supplementing her income, because she has a lot of medical bills that she needs to pay for. So yeah, I found that really interesting as well, because I don't think I've read any books that have diabetes rep. Obviously I can't speak on how accurate the representation was, but yeah, I think the reason why this worked for me when Love on the Brain didn't is because the characters in Love on the Brain had very over-exaggerated personalities, whereas Elsie and Jack felt a little more toned down, and I've seen some people found them boring. I think that's possibly why I actually liked this one. So yeah, I gave this one 5 stars, and it's restored my faith in Ali Hazelwood. I'm actually really excited now to see what she comes out with next. Moving on to a book that unfortunately didn't work for me, and that is Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. So I thought I was going into this with the right expectations. I've heard a lot of people talking about this book and how it's not the best written book, but it's really addictive, and I do agree it's really addictive. As soon as I got into this book, I couldn't put it down, but unfortunately there was a lot about this that I didn't like. So essentially this book is the story of Magnolia Parks and BJ Valentine. So Magnolia and BJ used to date when they were in their late teens, and they were the dream couple in their friendship group. However, BJ cheated on Magnolia and they broke up, and now they have this very toxic relationship where they're best friends, but Magnolia can't forgive BJ for what he did. Like, they still love each other, but BJ is still sleeping his way around London. So it's very messy and it's very toxic. And I can see, like I said, why a lot of people have loved this book, but I found it really repetitive. Now, I think if you like rich people drama, then I would recommend giving this one a go. It's been pitched as the British Gossip Girl, and I can kind of see the comparison, but the main reason this didn't work for me is because I didn't really feel any chemistry between the two main characters, and so I found the constant back and forth really repetitive. Like, I think it can be fun to read a book that has a lot of angst and drama, but only if I'm rooting for the characters to get together, and I found like the characters had better chemistry with other characters. This is also the first book in a series, so don't expect a neat and tidy ending. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to be continuing the series. The final book that I wanted to quickly talk about is The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. So like I might have said earlier, this took me completely by surprise. I picked it up because I wanted an audiobook to listen to while I was knitting, and I was not expecting to enjoy this one as much as I actually did, because it did come out, I think, around the time of Gone Girl and The Girl of the Train, and I found the books that were published around that time, I would have enjoyed them more if I'd read them at the time that they came out. However, I really enjoyed this. It's a kind of strangers on a train retelling. We're following two main characters, a man and a woman, who meet at an airport, and the guy starts ranting about how his wife is cheating on him, and the woman offers to help him with this problem, and the story goes from there. But the direction that it goes in wasn't what I expected. The characters in this are completely unhinged, and I really liked that it was a full cast audio, because I think that enhanced the experience of listening to it. There were so many twists in this that I did not see coming, and I am someone who reads a lot of thrillers, so I tend to pick up on certain clues as to what direction a book is going in, but there were so many surprises in this book, and I loved the ending. The ending was perfection, which is why I'm not sure whether I should pick up the sequel that's just been released. I don't know whether I need a sequel, considering I thought the ending to book one was so good. I think if you read a lot of thrillers and this is one that you haven't got around to yet, I still think it's worth picking up. The only criticism that I had was that it felt a little male gazy. There were some descriptions of stuff and I thought this was not needed. But otherwise, I really enjoyed the story overall. It was a roller coaster. So, like I said, would recommend this one, and I have read one other book by Peter Swanson, 8 Perfect Murders, which I can remember thinking was okay. I can't remember anything about it now, but maybe I should pick up some of his other books. I haven't heard the best thing though about most of his other books, so maybe this is like a one-hit wonder. But yeah, I'm really glad that I picked this up spontaneously, because I think it's one that's going to stick with me long term. I don't know whether you can hear the noises that have just started outside, but I am going to wrap up this wrap up here. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, let me know in the comments what was your favourite book that you read in August, and have you read any of the books that I talked about in this video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and click subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me, but otherwise I will see you next time. Bye!